Isaac labo kalang tutawal mergi dilo ko loreng sa 87.9 FM marami kita in stereo. Ito maguduk mo talk show ra MOJ. Dilo kita okay kayo nga studio at tutawal. Obang gila Randy. Kahalik kong talaga yung sang Randy mo open na program gid tolmol mo. Tutawal Randy.
Okay, maluwil total marbekladro ko loreng sa tel EPFM Eco Paradise. Vamos a tema de el año spider gram aten o klaya de all mrongot mo kutay del sure gid lo adra Ministry of Justice el dom godong ngil MOJ Family Hour mga damal mga sulit kal ko okya gid el alsils en gora walol gedang sel Women in Leadership Conference gora so mamal mo gora modilo sa tiangal Women in Leadership Conference among terul okya kal ngatang lo ngede tira nga espayda ko di melko to Miguel Macmo melasmel el guk melko to Miguel Mortir melasmel yudra aurira a program. So with that said, and then I'd like to welcome our guest this morning. We have two guests from Hawaii.
Thank you so very much.
And I don't wanna ruin your introduction, so I'd like both of our guests to introduce themselves and let us know about this Women in Leadership Conference that's coming up.
So my name is Inez Miyamoto, and I am a professor at the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies. It's a DoD, or Department of Defense institution, that brings people together as a way to build peace and build relationships between people.
So DoD is Department of
Defense. Yes.
Okay.
And my partner in crime?
My name is Tracy Bean, and I work alongside Inez at the Daniel K. Inouye Center to coordinate a program for emerging young leaders. We do executive coaching, webinars, and workshops like this.
Wow, amazing. All right, so tell us a little bit about how you got involved. What is this Women in Leadership program?
So, as Tracy was saying, we have this program for young leaders, and part of it is how do we develop the next generation of leaders who are out there. As you know, we're focused as the DoD on the defense and national security aspects, but in government there's more than that. How do we reach our interagency partners and make that connection between defense and law enforcement and justice? So we partnered with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Everybody knows the sexy FBI. And I used to be an FBI agent, so I'm very, that's my background.
Wow.
So that connection for me was very important because I saw that there was a gap, that we're not connecting people in the right places so that we can work together to address problems. So how do we build that? I got together with one of my FBI partners from 10 years ago who happened to be in Palau and said, why don't you do it in Palau? And I said, well, that's a great idea. And when I learned more about what Palau has in this beautiful country, it made sense because, number one, it's a matriarchal society and, women empowerment. That's what we're focusing on. And number two, climate change and leadership for the next generation, because that's a pressing problem, a security problem that everybody's going to be facing. And women are more impacted from climate change challenges than men are, because they build families and relationships, and they're the ones who have to evacuate when you have a problem.
Right.
So Tracy, would you like to add to that?
So this is important because we recognize that networking is one of women's superpowers. So in a environment that's safe and supportive and collaborative, we can bring all of our strengths together. We can uplift one another. We can share our mana'o, or our knowledge, with one another. And that's really important because if we're going to break the glass ceiling, we have to do that collaboratively.
So
right.
Could I add to that where this event is special because we're bringing partners from different countries. Which ones? Because I never remember all of them.
So we have 10 countries that are involved. We're bringing together Taiwan, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, all the way out to the Maldives. Let's see, Japan.
Wow, so like this
Indo-Pacific,
Indo-Pacific area.
Exactly.
Okay.
Tonga, RSM, FSM, RMI, and then Palau. And we're not coming here with the mindset that we have some knowledge that we have to share with you guys. We're coming here to collaborate with one another because the Palauans have a really huge tradition to share with us. You guys are ahead of the game in so many ways. Environmentally, you're ahead of the game. You haven't made the mistakes that, like, the people in Hawaii have made. And you are a matriarchal society that doesn't have to encourage women to be leaders. You just naturally, that's part of your culture. And
Right.
so it's really important for us. It was important for us to have our event here because it's what we're encouraging other cultures. You know, other cultures don't have the tradition that you guys have of supporting women and women going forward and leading, and that just being a natural response.
So it's kind of having this conference and having sort of an example around it to kind of show what we're trying to.
Absolutely. We're coming here to get your mana'o, which you can pass on to us as well. So this is all about networking. It's all about collaboration. And women naturally do that in a very authentic style.
So who's involved? Who gets invited? Who gets to be part of this event? And what sort of outcomes do you sort of expect out of this event?
So the participants were selected by name based on the fact that they're young leaders in our program for the Indo-Pacific. We brought those people. The FBI, our partner here in Palau, selected individuals from the justice and the law enforcement to bring that network of their network together with our network, and let's blend them. So they're Palauans, they're FSM, RMI, all island cultures.
So I'm assuming the vice president is involved because she is a woman in leadership.
Absolutely. We were blessed to get her as a speaker.
Wow.
And can you add the other individuals?
We also have the Attorney General
Oh, wow.
coming to speak. We have the U.S. Ambassador as well as the Australian Ambassador coming to speak during our working
yes,
lunches.
That's right. She's also a woman in leadership, and she's Ambassador Turner. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. They were just playing baseball the other day with the U.S. Ambassador yesterday.
Who is a big baseball buff.
Yeah,
we've
who's
heard.
a big baseball buff. Yeah, so that was amazing. Both of them actually
Were they any good?
were really good. Both Turner and the U.S. Ambassador were like really good. Like they really had, because they went against the executive branch, and they made the executive branch really run for their money. Cause
Well, and we have another huge sports person in your Attorney General.
that's right. Our
Her
Attorney
sport
General.
is tennis.
Yes, that's right, and she's
represented
amazing.
your country,
Yeah.
and her daughter has represented your country as well.
Yeah, that's right. So this is amazing because you get to bring a lot of these very strong women, who can really showcase some really great paths for other young girls to follow. So does that get into the agenda? Like, what sort of things are in the agenda? What types of things do you want to portray or convene when you get together?
So number one thing is we want people to understand their personality, because that drives how you deal with people and how you build relationships. So they have self-assessment, they have emotional intelligence, how to use it. They will be doing activities such as team building in order to build networking and bonds that are enduring, versus just meeting together and for 1 week and forgetting about each other. We want to make sure that these cohort, this group, really keeps their relationships going in the future, because we believe that's the way you build peace and cooperation in the world. Did I miss anything?
So some of the magic that happens at the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies is exactly what she's talking about. And I've seen it with my own eyes, where you bring together people. In the last CSC course that we had, I think there was something to the 46 countries represented. And when they first came together at the beginning of this 5-week course, very few people knew each other. If they did know each other, it was because they were from the same country, and they tended to kind of hang out with the same people. But towards the end of the course, or by the end of the course, you had people who authentically loved each other. They're talking about getting together, taking vacations together in each other's countries. And when you have people talking at that level, at the emotional level, you can't go to war with them.
I think that's also something to, like, when I hear that, it also helps with problem solving, because there's something you mentioned, Professor, about the difference between training and education. And I kind of want to go into that a little bit. So this isn't just sort of a training.
Negative.
Tell us a little bit about that. What's the difference between a training and what we're doing here?
So training teaches you how to do something. Education is how to think. And thinking is what we do as leaders, because we need our leaders to deal with complex problems that have never come up before and are emerging. As you've seen in your job in media and information, the world is quickly evolving. We can't teach you how to do everything, but we can teach you how to think and how to work with people and build cooperation in order to solve these complex problems that we're going to be faced with as more technology comes into how we deal with in life, the world. So, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, specifically for this workshop, we have to acknowledge from the very get-go that not every country is like yours in their tradition. We deal a lot, depending on different countries, with gender disparity. And so as we are sharing the mana'o with one another, we have to take into consideration that there is a glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
How do we break through that cooperatively? We have to do it together. It's important that we look to people like your leaders here in Palau and other women in leadership who have broken through the ceiling. They've gone forward. It's like breaking the sound barrier. It was thought to be impossible until the first person broke the sound barrier, and then people can follow through with that. The 4-minute mile, the same way. That was impossible. Then somebody breaks the 4-minute mile, and now people are far surpassing that.
Right.
So we have to look to the people who've gone before us and ahead of us, and then not just follow, but overtake them.
Wow. All right. So can you give us sort of a picture of who else are involved in doing this whole program? Like you were mentioning the Department of Defense. What other agencies or other people are involved in this program?
So, as
Yeah.
you know, it's a U.S. sponsored event. However, we can't do it without our partners. And much of it, Tracy's been helping us with, is getting all these different people involved to help us out. For example, can you go over the team building activity on Sunday?
So are we going to share that?
Oh, well, I don't think our participants are listening in, so I think we can.
Well, first of all, if I can use this time to shout out to Mary Cruz Martinez,
All right.
because she's been a heavy lifter in this. We've been sitting in Hawaii and just kind of giving her like a framework of what we're going to be doing, and she's been here just pounding the pavement and meeting people and getting people involved. So shout out to Mary Cruz.
All right.
This Sunday, we're looking to do things that really build relationship. And so in the understanding that networking is part of what we're doing here, we are breaking our people up into different groups. We're giving them some bare minimal materials and tasking them with building a vessel that they can then get into and float in the lagoon. So we're giving them some packing tape
Wow.
and cardboard, and they have to work together.
So you guys are doing some like real exercises
Yes.
that can actually really get people together and
Problem solve.
Because
We're not talking
Yeah.
about, strong gorilla tape. We're talking about plastic, like masking Scotch tape.
Oh my gosh.
So there are problems, and this is, they're going to have to learn how to work with one another. They're going to have to problem solve, and then they're going to have to execute. And in the absence of executing correctly, there is going to be
Your
consequences.
boat sinks.
So
Real life.
So from that exercise, like what are some challenges or what are some issues that women in leadership do face, and how will this event sort of help us sort of cope with some of those challenges?
So normally when you put, not normally, but in most situations that we've seen, a woman will step back and let the men take charge. In this situation, we created that it's all women. Somebody's got to step up. And how do you step up together? They should be more collaborative, we expect, because they're collaborative women coming together. However, the dynamic doesn't always work. So this is where we see personalities come to play, and we use this as a teaching, a building block to take us back to when we look at personalities. Well, who took charge in this event? What happened when they took charge? Did everybody listen? Did your boat, was it successful or did it sink? And what could we do better? So everything goes back. We try to tie things back to our activities to make sure that there's a learning point. Now, the critical piece before they build the boat, though, which we want to go back to because it deals with Palau. Could you cover the activity with our partners?
Oh, yes. Okay, so we're going to be working with the Mabrel women.
Maybral, yeah.
Mabrel.
Yeah.
Mabrel women in planting trees in the garden.
Wow.
Because we want to, number one, be supportive of the in the Palau Pledge and the environmental issues here, and we want our participants to really invest themselves in a real way into touching the soil of this place and connecting to the land here.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event for us.
Yeah, it's fun, but also very, I feel almost spiritual because
It is, because
especially coming from, I mean, not saying that, not to like separate you guys, but also coming from people from Hawaii, I feel like we're very, islanders are very connected to the land. So to have us do this with all the other women around the Indo-Pacific, I feel like that's going to definitely, there's going to be something to get out of it. Like you'll learn something really good out of that.
And we are going to be talking a lot about the Palau Pledge and what that means. And we signed our names to it when we came into your country. So there's significance there. And we want to give it weight, and we want to make sure that we give it time and that we can actually really go through it and understand what we signed.
Right, that's
because
good.
Because it's a contract.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand its significance, and then we have to act upon it to make it a real commitment.
Wow.
And that's leadership.
That is leadership, and I want to thank you because that is a pledge to our children in Palau that you will definitely take care of the island. So that's good, and I'm so excited to have you guys here in Palau and to do these programs in that way with that I feel is respect for the island and respect for even our geographical location, and for the spirit of Palau and for the spirit of the islands. And so thank you so much for that. And especially women in leadership. I feel like, women in leadership is definitely, they're all connected to people. And there's sort of a, we get this sort of feel of a mother, from our vice president, for example, who's there to kind of, make sure that things happen a certain way. So does that come up often, with women in leadership? It's sort of this mother feel, nurture.
Yeah, it is an important thing because I think some of the problems that we've seen in the past with women in leadership, and we often hear that term imposter, imposter syndrome, where we feel like as we step into leadership, we have to become somebody that we are not authentically, because so much of the framework of leadership comes from how men have led in the past. But we have to recognize now, in looking at cultures like yours, that women in leadership looks different than men in leadership, and there's actually a power there.
Yeah.
So going back to what she was saying in terms of what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at personalities, but we're not going to just be looking at where we are in terms of our personality.
Yeah.
But as women in leadership, we want to understand where our team members are in terms of their personality. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And not just say, this is our goal, everybody does the same thing to work towards our goal. We want to be able to look at our team and say, this is your strength. How do I manage that to the best of our ability so that you can work in a place of complete satisfaction, knowing that you're using your skills and your talents and your strengths to do the work, while somebody else is doing different things according to their strengths and weaknesses. So that's really important. I don't think that in the past those personality tests have been used to its greatest advantage because it's been more about, who am I? Am I a lion, right? Am I a golden retriever?
Right.
It's not just about that. If you're going to use it to the best of your ability, you're going to use it for your whole team, and then a good leader will play to each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Well, that's amazing. I think this is going to be such an amazing conference, and I think women in Palau will be very inspired and motivated. You know, I my whole life, basically, you know, women in Palau, my women in my family have always played a very strong role in our lives here in Palau. And like you were mentioning, like we're a matrilineal society, we're a matriarchal society, so a lot of the times, like, you know, women are the ones making the decisions, and so I feel like this is a great empowering program that will definitely continue to strengthen the women in Palau and the women in leadership in Palau.
Well, understand too, we're taking a lot of inspiration from your culture, and that's why it was important that we have it here. We're coming here to gain inspiration from you.
Yeah, a lot of time. Well, and I don't want to speak on behalf of my women, but a lot of times women know what their strengths are here in Palau. Like people, get out of the way. Like we're gonna do this. Okay, let's go. So yeah, this is an awesome conference, and we're more than glad to help and assist in any way.
Thank you so much for bringing us here today to be able to share to your listeners and watchers of what we're doing, because this MOJ, Ministry of Justice program is very important, and the fact that we're connecting our law enforcement and our justice partners is so critical, because while they get seen in a negative light sometimes because they're enforcing, the benefits for this is that they can share what they know.
Yeah.
Because they bring a different type of lens to the problem. So I think the other thing is that your culture is very important, and you might take it for granted about how strong your women are, and that we look up to you. And we hope that, like Tracy said, we can gain from this power. Mana, right?
All right. Well, I think that's amazing. Thank you guys for being here. If you'd like to leave some last words for the young women in Palau, or the women in leadership in Palau, I think this would be a great time.
Well, first of all, we would just like to thank all of the women in leadership here who have stepped out and who want to support this, because I think that's very critical. If we're having a women's workshop, women in leadership, and the women who are leaders here in Palau weren't stepping forward, that would be a statement in and of itself. But the fact that they're so willing and so gracious to come forward and help us to support these emerging leaders, that's huge, and that's the nurture that you're talking about.
All right.
I think the final thing, shout out to all the women out there. I hope that in the future you can join us, and in the next event we have, that you can come to our program, and that we can bond and develop the next generation. So.
All right. So lastly, where do we find information about the event, or where can we contact you, like regarding the event?
It will be on our website after the event. We're trying to keep it close hold so that there's trust and bonding that occurs. So our website, we will push something out the last day of our event.
Okay. And do you have an email? Can they contact you directly, or
Yes, we will put it on your
you can just say
social
it?
media.
Yeah, you can say your email.
It's Miyamoto I at dkiapcss.net.
All right, awesome. And you want to share yours or
She's
the contact? Okay.
she's the contact person.
All right, awesome. So thank you again, Professor Inez, and thank you again,
Thank you,
Tracy, for joining us on this amazing introduction to Women in Leadership Conference, which is going to be happening next week. All right, so we're very excited, and we hope we hope for great outcomes out of this conference. So, with that said, thank you again. Ako man sulang tune in. Pwede mong tulkwadi mos modit yang ta maralmel el conference el morar dir belaw ma direk kal kukura waloli si ra atirkal el redil nga leadership nga el sala leadership matigel ko amara la relir matigel ko nga to buhay tigigidal kuk women in leadership at programa mal tukubet sa minut kun mo tigigidal el redil ma kadamal mga sulit kalterong el professor sa mlame kuk ol nga seol mga tmok tagi del programa mo rin next week hindi tiang along at mok rin gila MOJ mga niya specific agencies el mo o participated tial program so kadamal di mga sulala Ministry of Justice el kuklo sa ilkut maklitiang matagi da kuklo o sure gid el angara MOJ family hour ko mal masulang tune in. Back to you, Spider.
Kimalungil tutaw sa daw labang nila talkshow gid MOJ. Yang nga next talkshow gid el dongiringi musilbelsis pero mo umalia talkshow gid el tutaw.